Capital Sonoro.
De Vital Importancia es un podcast cultural que trata temas serísimos con gente inteligentísima y estamos en una entrevista con la escritora vietnamita radicada en Canadá, Kim Thúy, con quien vamos a hablar de muchos temas, pero el primero de ellos que le voy a preguntar es que llevamos apenas 3 días de la Feria Internacional del Libro de Bogotá y uno ve a la gente en el lobby del hotel con ojeras grandes, incluyéndome, con ojeras grandes, mirando cansado hacia el infinito, un poco masticando lo que le queda del desayuno, pensando en cuáles son los eventos que tiene, y Kim no. Cuando me acerqué, cuando tuve la oportunidad de conocer por primera vez en los minutos que precedieron esta entrevista a Kim Thuy, ella está absolutamente entusiasmada y tiene un espíritu muy generoso y me causa curiosidad, y eso es exactamente lo que le voy a preguntar. Entonces vamos a hacer traducción simultánea. So Kim, what I was saying is, the first topic I wanted to address is if we are only 3 days in the International Book Fair here in Bogotá, and everyone is already looking to the void with vacuum eyes, with bags under our eyes, because I include myself in that, just thinking about what is our next event, or do we have this interview, and you are not. You are really enthusiastic and I love it.
Of course.
How do you get to enjoy this touring thing that many writers get really lost?
Okay, can I tell you first of all my experience in Bogota?
Yes,
I was
please.
at the Virgilio Red. Right?
Virgilio Barco?
Yes, it's
the library.
The library, the very big public library.
Yes,
built up from the dumpsters, right?
Yeah.
And so I was very impressed. First of all, that the signification of the meaning of a library being built on a dumpster. So it's almost like rising from the ashes, right?
Yes.
So it's exciting just to be there first, and then after that, I didn't think anybody would come to see me. Who knows about me in Bogota, right? But then, next to the auditorium, there was a group of women dancing, learning to, like exercise, dancing a little bit.
Yes.
And it was very fun. So I stood in and I danced a little bit with them, learning the steps while I was waiting for the beginning of the talk. And then afterwards, I went on stage, and I was so surprised. All these women who were just dancing came to the room, to my talk. And then at the end, the most amazing thing, they all came to me as if I was a rock star and started kissing me on my neck, on my face. When does that happen? It never happens. Writers, we are not so... I don't know, people who love writers, they don't get so excited and enthusiastic, right? They are readers.
Neither so physical.
Yes, and very calm, they are readers. But no, these women, they just came towards me and kissed me everywhere, on the neck and everywhere. So I got, for 20 minutes, they had to push us out of the room. They because they didn't stop, and they gave me, a big cookie, a big cookie, like brown, cucas. Cucas? Yes. It was amazing, and we continue in the hallway. When does that happen? And so how can you be bored? You cannot be bored. I was so thankful. And then after that, I've been having some interviews, and I think only here in Colombia, after the interview, the journalist embraced me, hugged me, Oh my God, when does that happen? It doesn't happen. Could you imagine a French journalist hugging me? No.
Nor a Canadian, nor an American, nor an English, no.
Everybody is so proper, right? Yes. But here, the emotions is always like, skin deep. if you love, you just love and you say it. And yesterday, you know, after the talk, there were many people who waited to come for signing the books. And I was surprised that there were people waiting for me. I didn't know, so I walked very slowly and I didn't know I was going to sign. Yeah, no, I didn't know anything. And my guide took me to that place, and I said, "Oh, you're here waiting for me?" And they're like, "Yes, we've been waiting for you." And then people would come up to me and said, you know, so many nice things. And again, hugging and kissing. So we're very lucky there's no COVID. Otherwise, yes. I'm the COVID spreader.
You are patient zero.
Yes, I'm patient zero. Absolutely.
Okay, entonces les voy a contar hasta aquí cómo va. Claro, mi pregunta es, bueno, ¿por qué estás tan entusiasmada? ¿Qué pasa que tú sí lo estás disfrutando cuando la mayoría de los escritores verdaderamente odia esto? Y me dice que su experiencia ha sido muy positiva, que estaba en la Virgilio Barco, tenía una charla, y que al lado, en el cuarto contiguo donde estaban donde iba a hacer la charla, había un grupo de mujeres haciendo danza, una especie de danza fitness. Y estaban ahí y terminaron de hacer su sesión. Primero que había más gente de la que ella se esperaba, que ella no esperaba que fuera nadie a verla, y en esas además entraron las mujeres de la danza y se quedaron oyéndole, y después se acercaron a ella como si fuera una rockstar y la abrazaban y le daban besos y le dieron besos en el cuello, y que esto fue, pues, que cómo carajos puede uno aburrirse, y que después de eso llega aquí a la Feria del Libro. Mucha gente fue a verla y mucha gente fue a verla firmar los libros, pero que además de eso estaba en una entrevista y el periodista la abrazó, lo cual obviamente es absolutamente improbable en cualquier otro país que no sea latinoamericano, y ese abrazo y esta cosa que, claro, yo les estoy relatando y es tan colombiana, pues obviamente es absolutamente sorprendente. Entonces ha sido una experiencia muy positiva. So it's been a positive experience.
Oh, more than positive, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to meet with the readers. It's a privilege that, you know, I come on a stage and then the room got filled up. No more chairs. When in Bogota, who, you know, and I keep asking, how come you know I exist? Why did you come? Why do you know that I'm in this little room, you know?
And what did they tell you?
They say, yes, we've heard you from this friend who has talked about you, and we went to this bookstore, and then my friend dragged me here, but now I like you, so I want to buy your book. And, you know, so the stories are extraordinary. And one woman, she said, oh, my friend has talked to me about you, and then I talked to my daughter who is living in Paris, and she said, yes, I know Kim Thúy, you should go. And then so that's why she came. So you see, the stories are just amazing. They are all little miracles, that things that should not happen happened in such a beautiful way. And to me, it's, you know, it's like living in a magical world. This is Disney World for me. A book fair is a Disney World.
So nice. Is this your first time in Latin America? Because you are being edited by a prestigious label, Periférica, which edits, and maybe that's one more reason why, because people tend to follow the label, which is good.
Yes, but it's not my first time.
Okay.
I had been in Cartagena twice.
Oh, nice. In the Hay Festival?
And yes.
Okay.
And you are right, because I had a different publisher and my books were not there. I was invited for the talk, but people who wanted to buy the book couldn't have the books. So absolutely, my publisher now is great, because the book is everywhere. It's available, yes. And so yes, maybe, not maybe. I'm sure it's the work of the publisher, but even that, you know, for people to have. And one woman, she said to me that she I am your friend on Instagram. And I said, oh, you know, she's from Bogota and she follows me in Montreal on Instagram. And I'm not, you know, an influencer with, I don't know, bathing suit or nails or anything. You know, I have nothing interesting on Instagram.
I beg to differ. You've been a lawyer. You've been a cook.
Yes.
You've written about food, and you are an amazing writer. You have many things going on for you.
Yes.
I am just surprised that I have to tell you this, because I know what you mean, but Come on.
But you know what I mean.
Yes,
On
I do.
Instagram, it's not about my eyelashes. It's not nothing. I'm not doing anything interesting. And Instagram is about pictures. It's about images, right? And I'm all about words. And I'm old. I'm 54. And I have gray hair. I don't even dye my hair. So yes, it's incredible how words travel. Of course, you need bookstores, you need publisher to be the bridge between my words and the reader. But to see the power of words, how just reading a book, like one girl, she said that she had read one of my books and it changed the way she writes. And you go like, oh, and she didn't know me. She met me for the first time here in Bogota. And you realize then how words can change our mind or our way of seeing reality, of interpretation, And so it's incredible to share those moments with the readers.
Aquí, entonces estamos hablando de cómo para Kim las ferias del libro son su Disney World y cómo ha sido una experiencia muy positiva porque ha tenido la oportunidad de conectar. Creo que el punto central de todo está en la conexión con la gente que sorpresivamente para ella ha venido a verla, gente que la sigue en Instagram, gente que una muchacha que le dijo que leerla, ahora lo pienso, una mujer que al leerla cambió su forma de escribir. Esa forma de conectar es algo que termina reforzando muchísimo la experiencia. Yo le dije que, pues ella dice, yo no soy una influencer, yo le digo, pero por favor, Kim Thúy ha sido abogada, si no estoy mal, restauradora, cocinera, ha escrito sobre cocina, libros de cocina y además pues una excelente escritora que está aquí publicada por Periférica. Hablamos un poco sobre cómo el cambio de editorial, yo dije label como si fuera una disquera, pues publisher, influye también positivamente en que la gente como que la busque más por la marca, porque es una marca que la gente sigue ahí, pues es decir, con la que se conecta y que es una marca que tiene una buena curaduría. Perdón, ahí la cuña para Periférica, están bienvenidos para patrocinar esto. I'm saying to your publishers that they are welcome to sponsor this space because I'm saying, oh, Periférica is so good and they are so generous, they have such curatorial.
Absolutely, she's here. You should talk to her. Paca is here. Yes, let me find my publisher.
They've been very generous with us.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. But when you write, your characters are creations of your own mind, right? You have your characters, you write them. But when you have a reader coming to you, or a journalist coming to you and ask, oh, this character, how come she's like this, or why this character left, and it becomes like a real person. It's like we're discussing about a friend.
Yes, a biography.
Yes, of someone we know in common. How lucky is that? All of a sudden, from a 2D, the two-dimension character, it becomes a three-dimensional person. Yeah, so we talk about the characters as if they existed for real.
We have this in Colombia. It is so present here in Colombia because what you're talking about, we have with people in books, but with places in books. Because we talk about Macondo like it is a place. We use it when we feel jaded and frustrated. Like, oh, this is so Macondian. Yes. But we talk about it also in a magical way. And Absolutely. We had Macondo as a guest country in the Filbo some years ago.
Well, Big Brother. Yes. Now, today, we talk about Big Brother as if it's something real. But no, it's from a book. Right, so that's the power of words and our imagination. Our brain is extraordinary because it can make us feel melancholia just by reading the word melancholia. Or papaya, we can taste it when say it's a ripe orange papaya. All of a sudden, on your mouth, you can feel the sweetness and the tropical taste of a papaya. So it's extraordinary, the power of words. And when you have the chance to exchange, to talk about it with a friend, with a friend, a journalist. To me, journalists are friends because they've read about you, they know you so well, they know you better than your friends because they look up all the things you say and say, but you contradict yourself, before you say A and now you say B. So journalists would tell you that.
Yes.
Friends don't really. They forget.
They don't follow your TED Talks. They don't see you on YouTube. They don't listen to you on podcasts.
They don't analyze you, right? Whereas journalists do. So to me, when I get to meet with a journalist on stage or with a microphone, just a podcast or a writing press, it's like a free therapy.
Yes.
So it's very good. I love meeting journalists.
Entonces, ¿de qué estamos hablando acá? Aquí estamos hablando sobre cómo la conexión ha sido increíble por el hecho de que los libros son una experiencia increíble, es decir, cómo cuando uno habla como periodista con Kim, como cuando Kim habla con un periodista, con alguien que está hablando sobre sus libros o con una persona que los ha leído, hablan de los personajes como si fueran personas de carne y hueso, que esto que es bidimensional y que son aparentemente solo palabras, empieza a aterrizar y a coger unas 3 dimensiones que se vuelven sorprendentes y que convierten al personaje en completamente otra cosa distinta. Yo le contaba que pues eso lo hacemos nosotros aquí con Macondo, con García Márquez. Nosotros hablamos de los Buen Día y de Macondo como si fuera un lugar, a veces bueno, cuando todo es como, la magia macondiana, la diversidad, Macondo, etcétera. A veces malo cuando uno dice, pero esto es absolutamente macondiano, que no sale bien, todo sale al revés. Y Kim habla sobre cómo las palabras tienen esa capacidad mágica de transmitir, que cuando uno escribe melancolía, la gente siente melancolía, que cuando uno dice papaya, la gente puede sentir el sabor de la papaya en su boca, y que esa capacidad lo hace fantástico, pero además que la conexión con el periodismo es es incluso más profunda que con la amistad, porque los periodistas analizamos, leemos, observamos, oímos los videos de YouTube, oímos los podcasts y tenemos completamente taxonomizada a Kim, mientras que los amigos de ella pues no están como tan pendientes ni están tan al tanto de las cosas que pasan, entonces que ella siente que esto es como terapia gratis, lo cual me parece además fantástico. I am saying I'm glad to be a free therapist for you because I have so many things to talk about. I would like to talk about cooking, just because you mentioned the papaya. That was my last topic, but you got ahead. It's fantastic. How do you've given me some hints about this. You're telling me the sole word papaya brings the flavor to our mouths, to our brains, but I still sense there is a gap. There is a gap in which you can't translate quite exactly what you feel when you get exactly the flavor you're looking for, or when a flavor, like in Ratatouille, the movie, brings you back to a flashback that makes you cry, or how do you get to interact with food and then translate it. I want to talk about, that gap, the experience in the senses that you have to put in words, and how do you get to really translate that sensation, because I think one of the things that are wonderful about your work is you really taste it, and you're talking about it like it's easy. I don't think it is.
I think maybe it's easy because I realize that the way we eat, the way we cook is very different from one culture to the other, right? Yes. The way that the Vietnamese peel an apple is towards the outside. And in Canada, when I arrived there, I see that people peel towards inside. So just that, like, oh my God, I didn't know that it was possible to peel towards you, In my mind, you have to peel outside. So the danger is the other person and not you, the knife, you're pointing to the other person. And then I have a friend who had been going to a therapist for 10 years or more, and because she says that her parents didn't love her enough or didn't say I love you often enough, so she's not feeling well and so on and so forth. And I said, oh my God, my parents never say I love you to me, so maybe I also have a problem. Maybe I didn't know, but I have a problem, right? And now that I have more money, I should also have a therapist. So I went to a therapist. I started talking for 2 hours instead of just 50 minutes. I said, I'm late on my friends who's been in therapy for 10 years. So I said, you need catch up.
Catch up, yes.
Catch up. Let's do this. Yes. And after 2 hours, she kicked me out. She said, don't come back. Don't call me ever again. You know, when you get to be rejected from therapists, right? And so now all the journalists have to be my therapists.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So I went home and I said, how come I don't feel like my parents don't love me? I feel that they love me a lot, you know. And how? How do they express that? Because the Vietnamese, we never verbalize our emotions. We never say, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm proud of you, or any of that. You know, it's all about, have you eaten? Do you want more food? You know, it's always about food. And so I started thinking, I said, oh, it's all about food. And one day we had a grilled fish. And the Vietnamese way is that not each person has a plate. You have a bowl and you just go into the middle and eat everything put on the table, you know, for everybody. And so I saw my mother picking out the cheeks of the fish. You know, like the
Yeah.
And for the Vietnamese, we think that's the best part of the fish. I'm not sure. I think it's just because it's small and precious.
And tender, yes.
Yeah, but you know, because it's small, it's precious, you know?
Yeah.
So she took out the cheeks and she put them in my father's bowl. And then my father, because I was there, he took the cheeks and he gave them to me. And my son was there, so I gave the cheeks to my son. But it was very automatic, you know, we didn't think. It was just like, and then my son said, oh no, I cannot keep these cheeks. So he gave them back to my mother. And so, you know, but when you pick the cheeks with the chopsticks, it breaks. So at the end, nobody had any cheeks. No, right? Because it kept on breaking into smaller and smaller pieces, right?
So love was spread, kind of.
But love was spread. Yeah. The word I love you just traveled from one to the other, right? And this is how we express our love, is through food. And one day, my ex-husband, when he got his first cold, you know, very serious cold. Well, for men, it's always serious.
Yeah, I know. I know.
And so,
it's so embarrassing.
It's terrible, right? And so I cooked him rice porridge, you know, because that's what Vietnamese do. You eat rice pudding, a kind of rice porridge.
We don't have it here, but yes.
Yeah, you know, like this rice cooked in water for a long time.
Yes, we do that with oatmeal.
Yes, and we think that's the best remedy. When you're sick, you eat that, you cure. And I brought this to him very proud, you know, like, this is my love, I'm giving you rice porridge. And he said, why do you give me this shitty shit, you know, like, it doesn't look good. And he said, what I need is a chicken soup.
Oh, yes.
Because he's Canadian.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, what do you mean? Chicken soup doesn't cure you. And he said, chicken soup is the best remedy. And I realized then that none of the two, not rice porridge or chicken soup, would cure you, right?
Yeah.
Both of them are just comfort, emotions. So, and I laughed, you know, but I realized that food is never about food. Food is emotions. So all you need to do is to describe the food. Then you understand all the emotions of the human condition, of who we are, how our brain works through food. You know, how we refer food to our history all the time. And so it's easy, no? There's no gap. It's very easy to describe. But when you look closely, you see all of that. And food is politics, you know.
Yes.
Like for Starbucks, when they arrive in Asia, they could go into all the markets except for Vietnam, because Vietnam had the coffee culture from the French, right? And so we have been drinking coffee for a long time, not only since, you know, the American era. We drank it 200 years ago because of the plantation. And so when Starbucks came in, first, too expensive, and second, we think that the Starbucks didn't know how to make coffee. We know better, right?
Because you have your own coffee, you have your own recipe.
We are the second exporter of coffee in the world, right? So the Vietnamese drink coffee. And so just that, you see the difference. Why Vietnam and not Thailand? We're next to each other. But Thailand didn't have the colonization of the French. So the French didn't plant any coffee in Thailand, but they planted in Vietnam. And so even just coffee, it can talk to you about politics, about what happened, about history. So it's and the story that I've written in one of the books is that, the Vietnamese workers were not allowed to drink coffee because it was very expensive, right? The beans and everything. But they've discovered that there's a civet, like a small animal, which would eat the ripe fruit that fell on the floor, and somehow their digestion could not break the beans. So the beans came out in excrement, and the Vietnamese would pick those beans from the excrement, clean it, roast it, and make coffee from those beans. And the French discovered that those beans make better coffee because they went through the digestive system of that little animal. So that coffee has become more expensive. But it came at the very beginning from the fact that the Vietnamese were not allowed to drink coffee, even though they were the one who planted the coffee, picked the fruits, roasted the coffee, all of that. But and somehow those who were the dominee found out something more precious than the beans themselves from the plant. How incredible, right?
That reminds me a phrase from Garcia Marquez that said that if the shit were worth something, poor people would be born without asses.
Yes.
So
absolutely, it's worth something. It's worth something.
Yeah, it is, and it's a fortune of sorts that you have to, or you get Vietnamese plantation workers to find treasures in the shit.
Yes,
it's so great. It's so great, and now
and
I am
so
rooting
sad, but
for
so
them.
great at the same time.
Yes,
it's almost like a revenge. You forbid us to drink coffee. Okay, we find a better way.
And better
coffee.
And now this is
now
gourmet, and now you have got to
yes, revenge.
you have got to pick on the shit so you can get your gourmet coffee.
Exactly, right? How great is that when you talk about food? You can talk about politics, geography, history, personal references, even personal scars. Yes. As a refugee, I know what food means, how we lack the food, but not only the fact that we lack we didn't have enough food. It's about how food was being given to us. Because we lived in a camp next to a forest with nothing, right? And there was no tables, no chairs, nothing. So the food arrived to us, the fish, was thrown on the ground with dust, dirt, everything. Not because the Red Crescent wanted to be mean to us, but because there were no tables. So what do? You just throw, and they had so many people to feed, so they had to do it quickly, right? So I know how food can make you lose your dignity when you have to bend down to pick up that fish, even though you're grateful that somebody has thought about you and bring you those fish. The fact that you have to bend down to pick up those fish, you lose your dignity. So food can hurt you in a way that you cannot even imagine. And in those extreme circumstances, as an adult, would you, because you're so hungry and for your own survival, would you steal food from a child? Would you eat another person who just died for your own survival? And all of a sudden, your human values, your human condition changes completely because of food. So yes, it's very easy, you see? To talk about food.
Bueno, voy a tratar de traducir un poco esta respuesta. es interesante porque Kim mencionaba en la respuesta pasada la papaya y cómo la palabra papaya traía la papaya al cerebro y a la boca. Yo le pregunté sobre las dificultades de traducir un ejercicio como el de la comida, la cocina, el amor que existe, o mejor dicho, cómo traducir el sabor preciso, la experiencia sensorial en palabras y cómo eso termina siendo un hueco, una brecha a salvar. Para Kim es muy fácil porque la comida nunca es exactamente acerca de la comida es acerca de las emociones y de la transmisión de amor. Me cuenta dos experiencias muy bellas, una de cómo estaban comiendo con su familia y de cómo, primero me cuenta que una amiga canadiense sentía la carencia de amor, yo sé que esto sí les suena conocido a ustedes, por parte de su familia, de sus papás, de su mamá, que no le dijeron lo suficiente que la amaban, y la experiencia de Kim era: yo no siento que mi familia no me haya amado en absoluto. Y me cuenta que, claro, en Vietnam no existe decirle al hijo, a la hija como: mira, te amo, te quiero, sino están todo el tiempo preguntando: ¿ya comiste? ¿Estás bien? ¿Tienes suficiente comida? Y cuenta cómo tiene que ver directamente con el amor y cómo una vez estaban comiendo un pescado a la parrilla y la mamá de ella agarró los cachetes del pescado, que en Vietnam dicen es la parte más rica del pescado, y se los pasó al papá. El papá los cogió el plato y se los pasó a Kim. Kim, estando su hijo ahí, cogió los cachetes del pescado y se los pasó. Y un poco sintiendo como, no, habiendo visto lo que acababa de pasar con esta cadena, pues el hijo de Kim volvió y cogió y se los pasó a su abuela, a la mamá de Kim. Entonces todos un poco quedaron con fragmentos porque a medida que con los palitos iban cogiendo los cachetes se desintegraron, ¿no? El amor se esparció, pero ese acto de amor era exactamente eso. Hablaba sobre las curas para la gripa, que en el caso de Vietnam es pudín de arroz, como un porridge de arroz. Cómo se lo dio a su ex esposo, que en ese momento estaba teniendo su primera gripa. Hablamos un poco de lo vergonzoso que es que a los hombres nos derribe una gripa al instante. Pues, por favor, ni siquiera hablemos de otras cosas como dolores menstruales, pero hablaba de cómo le pasó un porridge de arroz y el esposo miró eso y dijo como: pero ¿qué es esto que me estás dando? Lo que me deberías dar es sopa de pollo. Entonces, que obviamente no es exactamente la comida, sino son las emociones. Hablaba de cómo la comida es política y de por qué Starbucks no logró entrar a Vietnam a montar tiendas de café, porque los vietnamistas ya tienen una cultura cafetera vieja, muy vieja, son el segundo exportador del mundo del café, pero además pues ellos tienen una cultura francesa del café. Entonces, primero era demasiado caro y segundo, Francia ya les había enseñado a hacer café, ellos tenían su propia receta, y hablaba sobre cómo existe una relación también directa entre la comida y el dolor, y la comida y el dolor atada a la pérdida de la dignidad. Hablaba sobre cómo los trabajadores vietnamitas de las plantaciones de café no tenían permitido tomar café, algo que es muy colombiano, ¿no? En donde los obreros que construyen los edificios después no pueden entrar a los edificios que construyeron, y no se les dejaba. Entonces ellos descubrieron que un animal estaba comiéndose los granos de café y pasaban por todo su tracto digestivo y los cagaba, y entre la mierda empezaban a encontrar los granos de café, los limpiaban, los tostaban, los molían y hacían café, y entonces descubrieron eso, y los franceses luego descubrieron que ese café, habiendo pasado por el tracto digestivo del animal, era mejor café. Entonces hablamos sobre la reivindicación y la venganza que suponía haber encontrado esa maravilla. Kim, now I would like to talk about your creative process in writing. If there is some similarities to your creative process in cooking, and I want to talk about emotions, because that thing you tell me, in which Vietnamese don't express love as such, yeah, like I love you verbally, don't verbalize love, translates to this first novel of yours, Rue, in these kind of postcards, little slices of a history, slices of life that you kind of layer on top of one another, because it is exactly that. We, on the other hand, here in Latin America, have our emotions skin deep. We are emotional to the point in which can be really dramatic and overwhelming. And our songs talk about love, 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 love. What am I gonna do if you're not here? I'm gonna die.
Yes. And you also hate. You can, if you can express love, you can also express anger.
And revenge. We have many songs about revenge in the treason of a loved one. It's really an issue we have with emotions, and we just do verbalize it very quickly, and we have completely other style. So I want to talk about that because it translates beautifully to Spanish, and the gap is now a positive thing because that lack of naming exactly the sentiment and spreading it onto this kind of painting that you make, it's a completely different experience. I do understand why this woman approached you and told you she started writing differently, because I started reading differently when I came to see how sentiments and emotions are treated in Asia, in far Asia.
Yes, absolutely. And I give you one example, like in the Western world or more Latin world, you are a strong person if you have an opinion. If you voice your opinion, you say what you think, and but in Asia it's the contrary. Is someone who can hold back all the emotions, right? Because if the person in front of you knows that what she's saying is making you happy, she can take it away, not giving it to you anymore. But if whatever she's saying making you sad, she can, put her knife and turn it into, deeper and deeper, right? And hurt you even more. So your strength is how to not show emotions at all. So the person in front of you doesn't know what can hurt you or make you happy, right? So the Empress of China back then met people with a screen of silk, right? A silk screen. The silk screen doesn't protect her from any weapons, but protected her from any involuntary movements of her face, so that the person in front of her would interpret whatever movement, her eyes maybe would dilate, or her cheeks would, move or something. So nobody can see her emotions at all. So you see the difference, and both of them are about being strong, just very in different ways, right? And the beauty, the privilege I have is that I know both cultures. I know how to speak, loud and to be very, take position, but I also know how to be very Asian in the sense that to hold back my emotions. And to be able to do that comparison is so fun, I think, for the reader to show that those two. I'm almost like a translator between the two cultures, right? This is what I would interpret if you did this, but it doesn't mean that it's bad or good. It's just very different. And I'll give you one example. My mom, she was very angry at first when we first arrived in Montreal, because she said her boss was so impolite with her, because he asked her to come see him by doing by holding his hand and moving the fingers, but the fingers were pointing upward, right?
Yes.
And for Vietnamese, you only do this to animals or to people under you, right? You don't consider. If you really want to call somebody to come, you have to point your fingers downward, and then ask the person to, you move the fingers but downward.
Oh, we have that gesture as well.
Yes.
But it's kind of intimacy thing, a secrecy thing. If I call you like this? It's come on, I'll tell you something.
For secret, right?
Yes, yeah.
But that's on the side.
Okay, no,
right?
we do.
You do that word?
We don't have a code. We have this this is involuntary code in which this is kind of it's secrecy, intimacy, but yes,
Yeah.
I tend to put it to the side, so
side,
maybe
right?
yes.
But the upward is okay. It's not at all impolite.
No, it's not at all impolite,
It's just
yes.
come, right?
Yes.
But to my mom,
That was-
impolite.
that was
So
it.
she wanted to quit just because of that gesture.
Okay.
Right, so I'm the translator of those two cultures, and I want to share with the Western world what is the Eastern, the Asian culture, but with words that you understand, with the description of it. And if I was only Asian, I would not see, the beauty of the word "ru," for example, because it's used everywhere, every day. It's just that because "ru" means putting a child up to sleep. You sing the song up to,
Like a lullaby.
Yes, a lullaby until the child sleeps. Right? It's very clear. It's up to that point. Whereas in French, it's just you put your child to bed or you sing her a lullaby, but it's not combined. And in Vietnamese, it's just one word, "ru," and it means all that, right? And so I said, I have to share it with the Western world. So I explain it. And if I was only Asian, I would not see the beauty of the word at all. But I needed, to know the other culture as well to say, this culture doesn't have this word. So it would be interesting for you to understand that emotion or that sensation that you don't have in your culture. And the comparison, very often I say, in English you have the expression "home sweet home," right? But in French you don't have that. So if you know both cultures, you try to explain to the French what the feeling of home sweet home is, right? And the word gourmand et gourmandise exists in French, which means you eat a lot, too much, with pleasure and guilt at the same time. In English they don't have it. They only have gluttony, which is only guilt.
Only negative, yes.
Yes, no pleasure. But gourmand is with pleasure.
In
right?
English now it's called foodie.
Yes, but it's not like gourmand, eat too much. Gourmand is too much, right? But guilt. But the most important word is jouissance. Yesterday they explained
the
gusto.
juiciness or what?
No,
Gusto.
Gusto.
Okay.
English they don't have. So what does that mean?
They have to call it gusto because
Yes, it means that you have never experienced that word.
no.
It's impossible, right?
Yes.
But how come you have already this sensation and you've never found a word for it? Right? So I am this translator between the two worlds. Like you said, the very quiet and the very loud. And I try to explain the beauty of the quiet. But from the perspective of the loud word of the Western world, so that you can understand, right? And it's the same thing with the Asian. I explained to my parents why it's beautiful to be free.
Explain that to me.
Oh my God, it's very difficult. It took me maybe 50 years to know how to enjoy the freedom that we own. Canada is a free country, which they encourage you to be free, but not all of us know how to be free, And I said yesterday to one person who wanted to become a writer, I said, give yourself the freedom to dream, okay? Because in real life, there are always rules everywhere. This is the barrier you should not cross. This is the red light you should, so many rules. When you write, this is the only place where you can be just free. Don't censor yourself. Give yourself the freedom to dream, to be, to really be. And not that you don't care about other people, but while you write, you have that right to just express what you want to tell and give yourself the right to just tell the whole story. Not already say, if I say this, maybe people would think that I'm mean, or don't say this because... No, be mean. You want to be cruel? Be cruel. It's the only place where you can be cruel, almost. And then after that, you can delete. You can push it aside, but at least...
Or tweet it.
Yes, oh my God, yes. But and so freedom is not easy. Because you want to follow the models, you want to follow what is out there. You think that a man should be this, should not wear a skirt, for example. Who says?
Yes.
Right? But in all our minds, we don't even know that we have those rules. Why don't you give yourself the freedom? That's the freedom. In Canada, nobody would stop you because you wear a skirt as a man. But all the men are, no, I'm not going to wear a skirt. Why? And they just go, why? What do you mean? Like men don't wear skirt? Since when? So when you go back, you break down the barriers, you realize that we put constraints on ourselves. Whereas we don't need to, right? At least in writing. Like, why would I not wear, I don't know, men's underwear? Why don't I go to the men's room while in the women's room there are 20 people waiting and the other room is free? Come on. No, I'm going to go. That's the freedom. Nobody will stop me, will arrest me or put me in prison to go in the men's room, right? But we all stop ourselves from doing that. That's what I mean by giving ourselves the freedom, enjoy the freedom that we own and we don't. And so, I try to be free too.
La pregunta que le hacía a Kim era acerca de su método para escribir en comparación con su método creativo para cocinar, pero sobre todo le preguntaba por una cosa y era la contención. Si ustedes tienen la oportunidad, que ojalá la aprovechen de leer Rue, es un libro que está compuesto de pequeñas postales, como de pequeños cuadros, y le quería preguntar sobre eso precisamente porque acaba de decirme que en Vietnam no verbalizan la emoción como nosotros sí lo hacemos. Nosotros hablamos como del amor y del odio y de las cosas como así de plano, pues lo sacamos de inmediato, mientras que allá no se insinúa, es casi tácito, no necesariamente se asume ni se presupone, pero ahí está, ¿no? Entonces la pregunta era pues eso, como cómo hacía para pasar, ¿no? Como esta cosa emocional que igual está ahí, que se siente perfectamente, y convertirla en estos pequeños cuadros que van componiendo la novela. Y ella me habla de cómo el poder se expresa muy distinto en Occidente que en Asia. En Asia la contención de las emociones, muy parecido a como pasa un poco en el Reino Unido. Esta es mi anotación. Termina siendo una fuente de poder, de cómo la emperatriz de la China recibía a sus invitados con una pantalla de seda que le permitía mantener una especie de institutional poker face, como una cara, o sea, ser inmune a la posibilidad de que se develaran sus emociones, a un movimiento involuntario, a un movimiento de la cara o a una dilatación de la pupila que pudiera delatar lo que ella estaba sintiendo, que mientras uno pudiera alejar a la gente de sus propias emociones, eso iba a generar precisamente una situación de poder. O sea, eso era exactamente lo que le daba poder a la gente sobre sus emociones, y que ella quería precisamente traducir un poco esta palabra pequeña. En el vietnamita todos son monosílabos, de ahorita vamos a hablar sobre eso, pero en el vietnamita todos son monosílabos que quieren decir muchísimas cosas. Entonces Ru es el acto completo de cantarle a un niño hasta que se duerme. O sea, no es solamente la canción de cuna, no es solamente el acto de dormir al niño, es el acto de coger a un niño y cantarle y cantarle y cantarle y cantarle hasta que se duerme. Mientras que cuando se habla de una canción de cuna, un lullaby, en Francia o en cualquier país angloparlante, incluso aquí, pues se habla de la canción. De hecho, no se graban discos con eso, no es exactamente la acción completa de Ru. Entonces esa traducción de lo breve a las palabras duras del occidente, en donde se es fuerte cuando uno tiene una opinión y expresa sus emociones y encuentra espacios para expresarlas y que la gente las oiga, las respete, las retuitee, etcétera, cambia completamente. De la misma manera que ella, que se siente como una traductora de estas sensaciones hacia lenguas occidentales, tuvo también que hacer un esfuerzo grande para ser una traductora de concepciones occidentales hacia su familia, explicarle a sus papás la importancia de ser libre y de cómo eso también está precisamente dentro del método, como le decía ella a una persona que quería ser escritor, que pues que no se contuviera, es decir, que se diera la libertad de soñar, porque era el único terreno donde las reglas no aplicaban, que uno si quería ser cruel podía ser cruel, si quería ser duro podía ser duro, si quería ser absolutamente amoroso, surrealista, irreal o lo que fuera, se diera precisamente la libertad de hacerlo, y que por eso era tan difícil ser libre. Nosotros estamos completamente constreñidos por convenciones, y esas son medidas en las cuales nosotros creemos que la libertad es peligrosa, y en la escritura eso le hace daño finalmente al método. So Kim, I want to talk about frontiers and barriers, because you're talking about freedom, and one of the things that connects us, you and I and the people of your country and the people of my country, because I've seen this video of you telling how you were lucky enough to get in 4 hours to Thailand, Malaysia, and you got in a boat at 10 years old and traveled really fast and got to Canada with no complications, but you are part of breathing, living mass of people that are disarrayed and that have been expelled reasons absolutely different to will, other to will, out of their original countries, and carry that memory with them. You dedicated through to the people of your country. So I get, you're part of something much bigger.
Absolutely.
I have not been a migrant, and I have not been a refugee nor an exile, and I do know, as a Colombian and as a journalist, that you get to be exiled and you get to migrate and you get to be a refugee when you are fleeing from poverty, authoritarianism, violence, or whatever. So I'd like to talk about, just because you mentioned freedom, and it is so important to us, it is so important to me as a person, and I know it is a main ingredient of anything that makes us human. And yet we are in a world in which you migrated 44 years ago to another country, to another culture, driven by motives that may not be exactly in the political map right now, but that resemble perfectly.
It's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same.
I think we need to understand, and I heard that once, like a journalist saying that, not journalist, I don't remember, someone said on TV that we should tell all the migrants that they will cross the sea and they will meet walls and they will meet police and they might not survive and it will be very difficult and maybe then they won't go. And I said there's no need, they already know that. They have already accepted death, okay? But they don't have a choice, and that's why they accept to leave, okay? And like my mother, who said to my grandmother when we left, said, yeah, and my mother was bringing my uncle with us, and my grandmother said, but you're gonna kill my son, because the boats, we knew that the boats were sinking, right? Many boats were sinking, and my mom said, but your son is already dead. I'm asking you to choose the place where he would die. Do you want him to die on a battlefield in Cambodia, at the border with China, or at sea? But at sea, at least we felt like we tried the last attempt to survive. And so, there's no need to tell refugees, to tell migrants that it will be hard. They already know, not only that it's hard, that they will die. It's possible that they will die, 90%. And, in our case, my father even had the pills. If we encounter pirates, we die with cyanide pills for us to suicide, And so that is already accepted. And so any migrants who survived the sea, who survived the hundreds of kilometers they walked, who have survived thirst, hunger, violence, right? Raping, stealing, all of that, and police, and the walls, and all of that. If they survive all that, they are superhuman. They are super athletes, okay? If I'm a country, I take them all because they are the best of the best,
yes.
Right? Physical strength and mental strength. If not, you have already abandoned. You don't continue. You just say, okay, enough.
Yes, we actually use that phrasing as a coaching device, because we talk about spermatozoids and we talk about how we are the winning spermatozoid.
Exactly, right? And the thing here where we are very contradictory is that an athlete who can, swim further than us, who can climb better than us, we give them a medal. A refugee can do exactly the same, swim further than us, climb higher than us, and we put them in prison. We are crazy, in a way, because they deserve also a medal to have survived all this. And nobody would leave their home. Nobody would choose freely to leave everything behind, to lose everything, to go. Yes, expats working abroad is different, right? You arrive there, you already have a job, or you study, that's not the same. It's not at all the same. But those who accept to lose everything to save their own life or their children's life, they are superhuman. And we should embrace them. We should embrace them. And so the problem with borders, it's an invention, it's abstraction. And we know with technology today, there's no more borders. And that's why my books are here in Bogota. Otherwise people cannot know about me. I'm in Canada, that's quite far. For the books to travel to here, I think technology has helped a lot, right? For people, you have listened to me talking before I arrive here because of technology, right? So I think in the next era, borders will become absolutely obsolete. We will have to govern the planet differently. And why it's obsolete? Because of climate change. It's not one country taking care of its own country. Sweden can be super green, but if everyone else around is not green, then what's the point? It's the same air. We have one planet, right? Like all the militants would tell you. So I think in the next era, this is the next invention we need to do to create one world, to work all together. Not that we'll lose, the culture of each country, not country, I should not call it, but each people, right? The tribes before didn't have borders, but they also had their own culture, right? And they live very peacefully among them, the tribes. It's not, we don't need to draw a line and say, okay, you cannot cross this line, right? They didn't have to. So I think maybe we'll have to create a new world and to think of culture as not borders, but specialty, uniqueness of each of our, culture. But it's not about borders. It's about sharing the differences caused by geography. Like the word snow. In Vietnam, only one word for snow because we don't have snow. But in Quebec, you have 20 words for snow, right? Wet snow, crazy snow, light snow. There's so many.
Drizzle.
Yes, all of that, right? Because of geography. So each country, your papaya is better than any other papaya I've eaten.
It is.
Okay? So because of geography, because of all that, because of language, we are different. But it doesn't need to be a border. It should not be. We have to govern differently because technology will break all the borders. Today, you can go anywhere. Google is all over. They're looking at you everywhere, right? Facebook is everywhere. They know exactly what you want to buy. And Amazon is everywhere. So today, we have to think very differently. And then we'll solve all the problem of migrants and so on and so forth because we work together. Okay, you need this. I have A, you need A. I have too much A, I'll give you A, but I need B. Can we exchange on this? And we will work together as one planet. I know it's utopic what I'm saying, but I think it's possible because if you take it down to communities, now we're building more and more communities, how to work together to be self-sufficient. As one community, we plant our vegetables, we grow, we raise chicken, and so on and so forth. You know, now you hear like communities, self-sufficient. So I think we are going towards that we know that we need each other to make it work. So at a micro level, you have these communities for living together, learning to live together with different generations, different cultures. So I think if we take it, you know, we make it bigger, micro size, you know, at a macro level, it would be possible. A new United Nations. It will mean really United Nations, right? And United Nations would have a new mission to rethink and talk with philosophers, anthropologists, sociologists, you know, all of that. How to break the borders or to govern the borders very differently. And we have done that in Europe, right? The Schengen zone.
Yes.
No more borders. But France is still France and Germany is still Germany. They still have two very different cultures.
Yeah, and share a common national story and whatever, yes.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean if you take out the borders that all the cultures will be mixed up. No, not really. Not really. You know, so I think we should sit down and think of a new mission for the United Nations as an organization. For the environment, we don't have a choice. We have to think globally.
Le pregunté a Kim acerca de las fronteras, ¿no? Precisamente porque ella pues es una migrante de 1978, 10 años de edad viajó escapando de Vietnam para llegar a Canadá. Ella relató alguna vez en un video que yo vi en YouTube cómo a ella no le costó, que ella tuvo suerte, pero al mismo tiempo Rue está dedicada a la gente de su país, precisamente porque, y esto pues era la pregunta, ella se siente o sabe que hace parte de un colectivo de personas que tuvieron que emigrar, que cargaron con esa memoria, que hacen parte de las personas que son binacionales, en la medida en que yo, por ejemplo, presenté a Kim diciendo ella es vietnamita, pero está radicada en Canadá, porque obviamente tiene una historia larga de arraigo, pero al mismo tiempo una historia mucho más larga de desarraigo, y de la manera en que romper con las raíces nacionales y con la propia historia, la historia cultural de lo que uno considera que le pertenece, pues hace parte también de los temas centrales de esta Feria del Libro. Y le estaba diciendo pues, que yo entiendo eso, que eso nos conecta, porque como latinoamericano puede que yo nunca haya viajado, pero yo conozco del exilio, sé sobre las migraciones, tenemos una crisis migratoria aquí en Colombia con la gente que viene de Venezuela, y nosotros mismos somos un pueblo migrante. Entonces bueno, estamos hablando sobre eso, y le pregunté pues, y ella dice varias cosas que me parecen que tienen que quedar ahí, y es primero que los migrantes son superhumanos, es decir, están haciendo un esfuerzo que es absolutamente sobrehumano para huir de circunstancias como la violencia, como el hambre, como la pobreza, y que es una cuestión, no que en un momento de nacer era una cuestión de cómo quiere morir, ¿no? Como esta persona está muerta en realidad ya, cómo quiere morir, quiere que muera en la guerra en Camboya, quiere que muera en la frontera, quiere que muera en el mar, ¿no? Y al menos morir en el mar traía la idea de pucha, al menos tratamos, ¿no? Al menos hicimos el último esfuerzo, y era era el punto que cuando finalmente la familia Kim y ella viajaron hacia Canadá y tuvieron que tomar un barco para atravesar el océano, el papá de ella tenía píldoras de cianuro para que pudieran suicidarse en caso de que llegaran piratas y no morir a manos de piratas, y tener al menos una muerte rápida e indolora pues, simplemente para que ese episodio terminara. Y que nosotros, así como hacemos con los atletas que escalan más rápido, corren más rápido, nadan más rápido, les damos unas medallas y los convertimos en héroes, algo parecido tendría que estar ocurriendo precisamente con los migrantes, que son gente que nadó más rápido, que pudo atravesar violencias infinitas para atravesar además barreras físicas y geográficas. Y eso llevó la conversación hacia un punto en donde Kim habla sobre las fronteras y sobre la necesidad que tenemos de repensarlo, empezando por, y aquí pues estamos de acuerdo, me han oído decir eso 1000 veces, las fronteras no existen. La forma en que uno decidió dibujar una línea que demarca un país es un constructo que puede perfectamente acabarse y debería acabarse en aras de tener un mundo nuevo y un mundo distinto, y de cómo debería replantearse cuál es el papel de las Naciones Unidas, porque precisamente el asunto con las fronteras en un mundo que está tan lleno de migrantes hace que haya una violencia adicional contra las personas que están migrando, y eso influye también en la manera en que nosotros nos entendemos a nosotros mismos. ¿De qué sirve que Suecia sea un país completamente sostenible si sus vecinos no lo son y todos estamos compartiendo un planeta del mismo aire? Y cómo esa cerrazón y esa noción artificial de las fronteras está terminando por dañar nuestro mundo, no solamente por la violencia que se ejerce contra la población migrante, sino por lo que eso plantea en términos de convivencia, economía, medio ambiente, y cómo el mundo efectivamente, gracias a la tecnología, ya está empezando a vivir una era tribal. Esto a veces se dice de manera muy negativa, pero como lo plantea Kim, las tribus de antes convivían perfectamente entre ellas, no existía una línea que los dividiera, una frontera, una bandera, sino simplemente historias comunes o historias particulares que los separaban, pero de resto eran la misma humanidad. Y eso mismo que ha pasado con la zona Schengen en Europa permite entender que podríamos tener un mundo sin fronteras, que ya sabe que es utópico, pero que tenemos que empezar a pensarlo. Y eso pues es la cuestión sobre las fronteras. Kim, I have to finish this interview because I have to run to another one, but I just wanted to tell you that it's been a pleasure talking to you. I regret it's been so short. I know it's been an hour, but
yeah,
I regret
it's so short. It's so short. But you were. Can I say that you were a great therapist? Thank you very much for your therapy.
Thank you so much.
You know,
like a therapist. Thank you so much, Mr.
Yeah, but you know, you asked me the questions, and I think we, for a moment, we allowed ourselves to dream of a better world, that it is possible to have a better world. Maybe we won't get there, but at least I think we can direct our eyes towards that goal to maybe, you know, be better humans at one point or the other, try just a little tiny bit every day. And maybe before we know it, we are at the summit of the Everest.
I hope, and I really do hope to see you again here in Bogota. You should know by now, it's only the third day of the book fair, but you should know by now you are always welcome here. Bogota can be a very welcoming place.
It's very welcoming, so
yes.
Do I get a hug from you too?
If you want to, yes.
Yes! Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Kim.
you.
Gracias a todos los que nos escuchan. Recuerden que este podcast no sería posible sin la dirección de Santiago Rivas, la investigación de Juan Pablo Conto, la edición de Adriana Castellanos y Cian González y las funciones múltiples de quien les habla, María Cuestas. De Vital Importancia es un podcast de Capital, Sistema de Comunicación Pública de la Ciudad. Gracias por escuchar.
Capital Sonoro.